So it's not that he's obviously afraid to debate.
No. So no. He had agreed to September 10th. Well, on ABC.
With Biden, who got pushed out.
Dan Goldman is a bit of a lunatic, and he appeared on Fox News. I will give him this. He goes on Fox News because here's the thing. Dan Goldman is independently wealthy. He's like an heir to the Levi Strauss fortune. And he made a bunch of money on Wall Street. And I think it was Donald Trump who pointed out that he has an uncanny stock portfolio. It's like, it's amazing. Every time some kind of legislation goes through that ends up helping a certain business sector or certain corporations, Dan Goldman somehow predicted it. It's remarkable. Who knew? I mean, seriously, I need him to manage my 401k. Anyway, Dan Goldman does go on Fox News because it doesn't matter. He's going to get reelected. So Dan Goldman was there with Bret Baier yesterday, and he, listen, we're used to Dan Goldman lying, but boy, he told a whopper that Bret Baier had to sort of call out and challenge. Here it is.
If I'm Donald Trump, I understand why he doesn't want to debate. Kamala Harris is
he's accepted 3.
Prosecutor.
He said yes to September 4th, September 10th, September 17th. He said yes to a lot of them. So it's not that he's obviously afraid to debate.
No. So no. He had agreed to September 10th. Well, on ABC.
With Biden, who got pushed out.
What's the difference? Why should he not debate whoever the candidate is on September 10th as he agreed to? What is the difference between candidate Biden and candidate Harris?
He said he would do it. I'm just saying he's also agreed to other debates. You said he hasn't agreed to others. He has. It's the Kamala Harris campaign that hasn't agreed on the other side.
Now, by the way, I think my favorite part is Dan Goldman's face. Look at his face. He just, now that I mention it, I don't want him anywhere near my 401k. Look at that face. It's like he had just heard that Donald Trump had agreed and challenged Kamala. Kamala Harris is the one who won't commit to debates now, by the way. And I do love the narrative of what's the difference, whether it's Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. Well, apparently it makes a difference to Nancy Pelosi. Apparently there's a huge difference. Apparently there's a huge difference to Chuck Schumer and to Barack Obama. To them, it wasn't just, it doesn't really matter. Let's go with either one. No, they seem to have a preference there, Danny. So apparently, Donald Trump is terrified to debate Kamala Harris. Let's take a look at why he would be terrified to debate Kamala Harris. See, because if I'm Donald Trump, I'm going to take advantage of my first debate with Kamala Harris to bring up all of the things that the media refuses to bring up. And by the way, I would do this in the first debate because you're not going to get a chance for another debate. I promise you. So every time it's your turn to talk, you should just bring up all of the things that she said last time she was running for president. You can't really bring up the things she's running for now because she has no policies. So you just say, listen, when you were running in 2020, you said this, you said this, you said this. Here's a perfect example. Her new ad is that she's going to get tough on the border. Have you noticed that she's literally running Donald Trump's campaign right now? It's like she's running against Joe Biden. She's running against herself. Elect me, and on day one, I'm going to secure the border. I'm going to lower prices, and I'm going to remove any taxes on tips. It's literally Donald Trump's campaign. And so while she's now pledging to secure the border, here she was in 2020 running in Iowa.
Hi, my name is Sally Hartman. I'm a volunteer with the Center for Worker Justice. Okay. I want to know, when you become president, would you be committing to close the immigration detention centers?
Absolutely, on day one. On day one.
So that's Kamala Harris in 2020 promising to shut down the immigration detention centers on day one. Fast forward to where she became the border czar and she actually expanded the immigration detention centers. But even more so, and they're still overflowing because as border czar, she has lifted any sort of security on the border, done nothing to stop the flow of immigrants from they keep saying, her real job was to go and reduce the number of immigrants that were flowing and get to the root cause. You remember when she stood down there in Honduras and she said, or was it Guatemala? And she said, do not come, do not come, do not come. There's a Willie Brown joke in there somewhere, but I can't find it exactly. I'm sure you can fill it in the comment section. Anyway, they kept coming, Kamala. They didn't listen to you. But everybody who makes an apology, well, she wasn't really the border czar. She was just there to stem the flow from the source, get to the root causes. Well, she didn't do that either. If that's your argument, oh no, she was responsible for, getting to the root cause. Well, she failed at that too. Thank you very much. But there she is saying she's going to shut down all of the immigrant detention centers, which is kind of a funny way to get tough on the border, isn't it? What exactly are you going to do when you detain people? And of course, the answer is nothing, because we're not going to detain anybody. So I don't know if Donald Trump is the one who's afraid to debate. If I'm Kamala Harris, I don't want any of this coming up. See, this is the reason why I'm not answering any questions in any interviews right now. Same with her running mate. I mean, here's another thing that Donald Trump could bring up at the debate. Your running mate, the guy that you picked, what's the deal with this? Gabe Kaminsky over at Washington Examiner, frequent guest on the Larry Roundtable show that we do on Fridays. He had a scoop. As governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, on 5 occasions, hosted a Muslim cleric who celebrated the October 7th attack and promoted a pro-Hitler film popular among neo-Nazis. And then the cleric's Islamist group received $100,000 in state funding from Walz. Now, hey, Kamala, that Tim Walz guy, why is he so pro-Hitler? Why is he cozying up to this Muslim cleric who celebrated October 7th and is basically a neo-Nazi? Now, of course, her response will probably be this response that we got from the Harris campaign about Gabe's scoop. Gabby Deutsch reporting that the Harris campaign said the governor and he do not have a personal relationship. Governor Walz strongly condemns Hamas terrorism. So they don't have a personal relationship. I mean, he played host to him over 5 times and made sure that he got a $100,000 grant from the state. But they don't have a personal relationship. All right, that's good to know. At least it's just political BS, right? Oh, that's the argument they've got. Oh, Tim Walz, he doesn't really like this guy. He was just kidding. That's all. Yeah, he was just bull. That's the best they've got. You know how politicians like to bull. That's all it was. All right. If that's the case, then explain to me how Gabe Kaminsky, the same reporter who uncovered this story in the first place, found this video today. Remember, he and Tim Walz, this pro-Hitler, pro-Hamas Muslim cleric in Minnesota, they never had a personal relationship. That's the official statement from the Harris campaign. All right, let's roll the tape.
I would like to, first of all, say thank you to Imam. I am a teacher, so when I see a master teacher, I know it. And over the time we've spent together, one of the things I've had the privilege of is seeing the things in life through the eye of a master teacher to try and get the understanding.
Wow. That sounds pretty personal to me, doesn't it? So, Kamala, about this Tim Walz guy who you picked to be your running mate and be one heartbeat away from the presidency, and his chummy relationship with this Hitler-loving cleric. You claim that they don't have a personal relationship, and yet he sit here and talked about how he had spent time with him and recognizes that he's a master teacher. So tell me, do they have a personal relationship, or is he just full of shit? But we're supposed to believe that Donald Trump is terrified to debate Kamala Harris. Well, let's take a look at when a really, 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 really friendly cable news anchor. We're supposed to believe that Donald Trump is afraid to debate Kamala Harris instead of the other way around. Listen, imagine what it would be like when a really, 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 really friendly news anchor at CNN asks the slightest of challenging questions to Kamala Harris during a debate. Like, for instance, this moment when a spokesperson for the Harris campaign decided to sit and answer questions, because they're being thrown out there now instead of Kamala Harris because she has no time. But the spokesperson has plenty of time. They don't do anything. This is how it would go. And by the way, this woman's actually pretty good at her job. Kamala Harris is a nightmare, right? Take a look.
What's on the vice president's schedule today? Well, she's traveling and talking to voters and getting her message out there to the American people, something that she's been doing from the very start of this campaign and something that she certainly did when she was President Biden's running mate as vice president. But look, you just mentioned the speech she's going to be giving in
that's right. I was asking about today, and I don't think she's got any campaign events on the schedule today, does she?
Well, she and Governor Walz have been traveling across the country. They hit nearly every battleground state last week. On the campaign trail, they raised $36 million within the first 24 hours of Governor Walz.
So she's spinning and she's spinning and she's spinning and she's spinning and she's spinning. But again, the question is, what's her schedule today? This is how tough the question is that she won't answer. And of course, the underlying message here is she's got nothing scheduled today. So why can't she just come and do this interview instead of you, right? Which is sort of the unspoken message.
Joining the ticket. And what she's going to be doing Friday is taking her economic message directly to the voters in North Carolina. I certainly don't want to get in front of exactly what she's going to say, but she's going to talk a little bit about how she's going to make sure that she's putting consumers first as part of her economic plan. She's going to take on corporate price gougers. She's going to take on junk fees. And that's something that, John, she did when she was Attorney General of California. Something she continued to do as the United States Senator of California. So she's going to be taking that message out to voters, and I look forward to seeing more of what she's going to say on Friday.
Right, there's a little bit more of this, but did you notice something? She said, she's going to take on corporations and she's going to put the American consumer first and all these things, which is what she did as an Attorney General and a U.S. Senator. Doesn't she have another job title in there somewhere? She's an Attorney General, U.S. Senator. I could have sworn that she's had another high-profile gig recently. That's what she did then. That's what she did when she was a U.S. Senator. What? Anyone? Can you help me out? Has she had another job recently? Oh, there's a Willie Brown joke there, too. God, there's so many Willie Brown jokes. Yeah. Then she took the last 3.5 years off as vice president. She didn't really give a crap about the consumers until now because, she wants your vote. All right, so we'll continue.
I think we all do, and I'll ask you more about that in just a second. The reason I was asking about today is because it seems like she has time if she wanted to do an interview with a member of the media or do a news conference, correct? There does appear to be that time if she wanted.
Well, look, she has said on the campaign trail that she would be doing an interview at some point. She said that, I think, last week during a rope line or when she was talking to reporters. But look, what is important here, John, is that she is taking her message directly to the American people. She hit a number of battleground states. I think we had 15,000 people in Detroit last week, 12 to 13,000 in Nevada. She's been taking her message to the voters and drawing large crowds. So she's actually having those direct conversations.
But not today. All I'm saying is not today. She could do an interview today, I would think, because she's not out there today.
Well, look, she's taking her message directly to voters, and just because she doesn't have an interview schedule on her public schedule doesn't mean that she's not taking her message directly to voters.
Hey, by the way, if you didn't know, she's taking her message directly to voters. By the way, when Trump actually takes his message directly to voters by having a conversation with Elon Musk, that's the second coming of, Hitler Klansville, brought to you by Mussolini here in George Orwell's America. But Kamala Harris is taking her message directly to voters by reading the exact same speech off a teleprompter in a controlled environment with AI crowds. Also, did you notice how long she was able to just spin and spin and spin without any interruption? It's the little things that you notice when an anchor is interviewing a Democrat versus a Republican. But I'll give him this much. By the way, just so you know, as these TV hosts and teleprompter readers try to press for an interview, you need to understand something. They don't want to interview Kamala Harris so they can hold her feet to the fire and challenge her on issues and serve up some kind of gotcha question. That's not what they're looking for. They want a high profile. They know that if they get Kamala Harris to do an interview, that their clout goes up. They get a higher profile. They're going to get a higher paycheck. They're going to get a big primetime gig. That's what this is about. This isn't actually about trying to be a journalist and do any journalisming, I promise you. But he did actually challenge this spokesperson to some respect.
So she did say in Nevada over the weekend that she does support no taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers. I believe we heard that for the first time this weekend. So if it is something she has supported, why hasn't she put it forth in the 3.5 years she's been vice president?
Well, John, first of all, she's been the candidate for the Democratic candidate for president for the past few weeks. So she is putting it forward her own agenda. She certainly, again, has many parts of President Biden's agenda that she helped pass, that she supports, but she's also going to be putting forward her own agenda. And that's something you heard her talk about when she talked about no taxes on tips in Nevada earlier.
Oh, so this whole no taxes on tips thing is her agenda. Okay, get it right. Did you not get the talking points from the campaign? That's her agenda. Yes, that's right. It's her agenda. All right. So one must wonder how Dan Goldman can even try to stand up there and say that Trump's the one who's afraid of a debate. I mean, Kamala Harris is some pretty ripe and fertile ground there for some pretty stellar attacks. Although, to be honest, who am I kidding? We know how this debate is going to go. When's the first one's on ABC? Is that right? So it's going to be either George Stephanopoulos or this guy. See, we all know how this debate is going to go. Here's John Karl last year talking about Kamala Harris, the border czar. And then immediately we'll show you John Karl this weekend with J.D. Vance, when J.D. Vance called Kamala Harris the border czar.
It was back in 2 years ago, more than 2 years ago, that the president put Vice President Kamala Harris in playing a critical role in terms of trying to stop the flow of migrants across the border. I mean, she was more than 2 years ago. She got this responsibility. No, she's not actually. She wasn't the border czar.
Actually, she wasn't the border czar, right? Oh, I'm sorry, John. I thought she was because I listened to you. Sorry, I've been told that she was the border czar by a guy named Jonathan Karl. Do you know that hack? They have absolutely no shame. They have absolutely no shame. So maybe that's why Donald Trump might be nervous to debate Kamala Harris, according to Dan Goldman. Or maybe he knows that Dana Bash might be controlling one of the debates as the moderator, right? I mean, here's how she's reporting on Kamala Harris today.
If the weeks-old Harris campaign is known for anything yet, it's the viral presence online, thanks to TikTok videos like these.
As my friend Quavo would say, he does not walk it like he talks it.
No sleep. Bus. Club. Another club. Another club. Plane. Next place.
Hey, Kamala. What are we going to say to Donald Trump in November?
Bye, bye, bye. Bye, bye, bye. For those of us who are not Gen Z, thank you for including that in-sync cameo. My colleagues have terrific new reporting on the Gen Z operation that is powering Harris's rise on social media. CNN's Betsy Klein is a part of the team behind this terrific piece.
Terrific reporting. Tell me more about the Kamala Harris cool factor. I just want to remind you all that a month ago, before Joe Biden stepped aside, which was less than a month ago, you remember, before Joe Biden abdicated his role, all of the parlor talk in Washington, D.C. and speculation and conventional wisdom had to do with what are they going to do? Biden can't step aside because Kamala Harris is a disaster. Nobody likes her. She is the least popular vice president in our history. She's a disaster. She's a joke. She can't make it through an interview. She can't make it through a speech. Everyone hates her laugh. She's vacuous. She's a nightmare. But boy, they all just turned immediately and did an about face and marched lockstep together. And now you get reporting like this. It's an incredible campaign. It's all built on fluff and image and TikTok videos. They haven't had to answer any tough questions, and they haven't had to put forth one policy idea of their own. And yet she's still doing great in the polls. Let's examine how amazing they are at doing nothing. Let's examine how incredibly successful and brilliant they are at shamelessly ignoring the media. Please ignore us some more, and we'll put you on the cover of more magazines. There's not 1 ounce of self-dignity left in any of these people. But yet Dana Bash will be one of the moderators of one of the debates, no doubt. That's where we are. That's where we are. Yeah, listen, maybe Donald Trump has in mind that that's the case when it comes to debating Kamala Harris. But let me assure you of something. Donald Trump has known this for 10 years now. He has never had a debate situation where he's had anything but hostile moderators, including the one where he just defeated. See, here's the thing. Donald Trump's already defeated his opponent in this election. Nowhere, no time in the history of American politics has a man had to run against two different opponents in a presidential election. He's already defeated one, and now he has to ramp up an entire new campaign against a new candidate. But he will, and he'll be fine. And we can't wait for the debates, even if it is John Carl, George Stephanopoulos, Jake Tapper, and Dan Dash moderating.